A judge laughs at a black teen in court. He's shocked when surveillance footage reveals the truth. If you believe every black teen deserves to be heard, not humiliated, hit that subscribe button now. The fluorescent lights above flickered slightly, casting pale shadows over the smooth oak floor of courtroom 9B. Outside, the rain continued its steady drumbeat on the courthouse windows, a gray veil of drizzle washing the city in gloom. Inside, time felt frozen. 16-year-old Jameer Benton stood at the center of the courtroom like a statue caught in the wrong place. His hoodie, dark with rain, clung to his arms, and his damp sneakers left faint prints on the polished floor. He kept his hands clasped tightly behind his back, not out of formality but out of nervous habit, like he was holding himself together. His heart pounded in his chest like it wanted to run without him. He could feel the weight of every stare in the room, the rows of seated spectators, the sharp-eyed prosecutor flipping through her files, the disinterested court reporter pecking away at her keyboard. They all felt like one collective force, looming and indifferent. But it was the man on the bench who made the room feel smaller. Judge Kenneth Rowley was known throughout the city's legal circles for two things: his impatience and his sharp tongue. With silver hair combed neatly to the side and half-moon glasses perched on the bridge of his nose, he looked like someone who might teach literature until he opened his mouth. Jameer had never been in a courtroom before, but he could tell when a man had already made up his mind. "Well," the judge said, voice thick with condescension, "let's hear it from the young man himself." He leaned back slightly in his chair, fingertips pressed together. "You say you didn't start the altercation?" Jameer opened his mouth, his voice shaking. "No, sir. I didn't start anything. I go to that store almost every day. I help Mr. Brannock." That's when the chuckle came, loud, echoing, dismissive. Judge Rowley let out a short laugh that echoed off the chamber walls. "So, you expect me to believe," he said, tilting his head, "that you helped the man after he hit you with a broom?" His eyes scanned the courtroom as if inviting others to join in the absurdity. "Come now, son. This is a courtroom, not a stage for storytelling." A ripple of quiet laughter moved through the benches behind him. Even the prosecutor smirked, scribbling something without lifting her eyes. Jameer's words collapsed in his throat. His chest tightened and he looked down at the floor, face burning. His shoulders tensed as though he were bracing for a second blow. The public defender beside him, a young man named Ezra Flynn, fresh out of law school and visibly overwhelmed, cleared his throat. "Your Honor, I've requested a postponement while we investigate a system error with the surveillance footage. There's reason to believe the footage wasn't properly reviewed." "The footage," Judge Rowley interrupted, "was marked unavailable due to a technical failure. I read your memo. Unfortunately, this court doesn't operate on hopeful guesses and invisible evidence. We deal in facts. Only those who stand for truth and justice will subscribe. This is your moment to show it." A hush fell over courtroom 9B as Officer Clay Darnell approached the bailiff with the urgency of a man who knew time was running out. His long black overcoat still glistened with rainwater, and a hard drive, heavy with truth, swung gently in his left hand. Judge Kenneth Rowley raised an eyebrow, visibly irritated by the interruption. He had already made up his mind, or at least he thought he had. His gavel hovered over its block, ready to strike down a sentence that would seal Jameer Benton's fate. "Your Honor," Officer Darnell said firmly, his voice cutting through the tension like a knife through cloth, "I believe you'll want to see this footage. It wasn't lost. It was hidden." A collective murmur swept through the room. Even the prosecutor, who moments earlier had appeared confident and smug, leaned forward slightly in his seat. Judge Rowley, still gripping his gavel, sighed with exaggerated annoyance. "Let's not waste the court's time," the judge said sharply. "You have 5 minutes." Darnell nodded and gestured to 2 courtroom staff members who quickly rolled in a portable screen and projector. The bailiff dimmed the lights, casting the courtroom in a soft shadow. The glow from the screen lit up the front row, washing over Jameer's face as he turned toward it, unsure of what to expect. His heart pounded in his chest. Could this really be happening? Could someone actually be standing up for him? Darnell plugged in the drive and opened a folder titled Bramble Footage, Unedited. The screen flickered, then settled into a crisp video frame showing the exterior of the corner market. A timestamp in the corner read 6:42 p.m. Inside the courtroom, breaths were held. The judge leaned forward, suddenly more alert. The footage began. Jameer entered the store, shaking rainwater from his hoodie. He waved to someone off camera. A voice, low and polite, could be heard. "Evenin', Kyle." Then Jameer moved toward the back fridge, crouching beside an old wooden crate. He began lining up soda bottles with practiced ease. A moment later, Kyle Brannick appeared in the frame, holding a phone to his ear. His words were clear and unmistakable. "Yeah, this the kid my dad keeps giving free stuff to," he said with a snort. "Bet I can scare him off tonight." In the courtroom, the gasp was almost immediate. The prosecutor's eyes darted toward the screen, his jaw tightening. Jameer's defender, a young man named Aaron Lyles, whispered, "Finally," under his breath. Jameer sat frozen in his chair, his mind racing to catch up with what was unfolding before him. On the screen, Kyle ended the call and walked toward Jameer with a broom in his hand. Without a word, he jabbed the handle into Jameer's back. Jameer spun around, startled but not aggressive. He raised his hands in defense, then backed up toward the front of the store. "Move," Jameer said calmly, his voice strained but not threatening. "I'm not trying to start anything." Kyle blocked the doorway. "You don't belong here," he sneered. Jameer tried to move around him, gently pushing his shoulder. Kyle's foot slipped on the wet floor near the entry mat and he crashed into a shelf, knocking down a stack of canned goods. The footage froze on that frame. Jameer standing back, hands still raised, and Kyle sprawled on the ground in a mess of cans and pride. The silence in the courtroom was deafening. Judge Rowley removed his glasses, exhaled through his nose, and adjusted his seat. Gone was the smirk. Gone was the dismissiveness. He looked for the first time that morning like a man confronted with his own prejudice. "Well," he began slowly, "it appears we were misled." But Darnell wasn't finished. He clicked on a second file. A series of emails filled the screen, subject lines like, "That kid from the store," and "Finally got rid of him." The email threads were from Kyle's personal account and one stood out. "Told you it'd work. Dad's gonna ban him now. No more free rides for the street kid." This time, Mr. Brannick, the store owner, stood up in the gallery. His hands trembled and his eyes glistened with tears. "I had no idea," he whispered. "I trusted Kyle." Judge Rowley raised a hand. "Mr. Brannick, please approach the bench." The older man moved slowly, the weight of betrayal sinking into his shoulders. When he reached the front, he turned not to the judge but to Jameer. "I am so sorry," he said softly. "You helped me more than you know. I failed you." Jameer blinked, unsure how to respond. His lips parted, but the words wouldn't come. Rowley cleared his throat again and addressed the room. "This court owes a formal apology to Mr. Benton. The case is hereby dismissed with prejudice. Furthermore, I am ordering an immediate inquiry into the false testimony and misuse of evidence presented. Officer Darnell, thank you for your diligence." As the lights came back on, people began whispering among themselves. The prosecutor looked down at his notes, clearly shaken. Aaron, Jameer's public defender, placed a steady hand on his client's shoulder. "You did good, kid," he murmured. "You stood tall." But Jameer wasn't focused on the whispers or the applause that began to break out in the room. He was focused on the feeling in his chest, a strange, unexpected warmth. Not joy, not yet, but relief, and maybe something deeper, something like dignity. Outside the courtroom, as the crowd filtered into the hallway, Mr. Brannick waited by the doors. Jameer stepped out into the hallway only to be greeted by a firm but emotional hug from the man. "My son won't step foot in that store again," Brannick said. "But you're welcome any time. In fact, I could use someone with your work ethic. How would you feel about an internship? At our downtown warehouse?" Jameer blinked, stunned. "An internship?" Brannick nodded. "You deserve more than apologies. You deserve opportunity." As Jameer looked around at the faces, some apologetic, some curious, some ashamed, he realized that today wasn't just about clearing his name. It was about showing them who he truly was. A quiet kid who helped others. A loyal worker. And now, a symbol of truth standing tall in a courtroom that had tried to break him. He accepted the offer with a nod. "Yeah, I'd like that." As they walked away down the long hallway, the courthouse behind them buzzed with the fallout. Investigations would follow. Reputations would be questioned. But for Jameer Benton, one thing was finally clear. The system hadn't crushed him. He had cracked the system wide open with nothing but patience, truth, and the right person willing to speak up. And for the first time in a long time, he smiled. Not because it was over, but because he had finally been seen. He didn't raise his voice. He let the truth speak. If that moment gave you chills, subscribe and stand with him. Disclaimer: the story you just watched is fictional, created to highlight the consequences of racial bias and the importance of fairness in the legal system. Its purpose is to inspire discussions about justice, equality, and the need for accountability in all aspects of life.